Welcome everyone. Today we're going to look at the chart for Michael Jackson, a singer-performer, and he's passed away about 10 years ago, but he's again in the news because of some HBO documentary revealing some secrets about his past. So we're going to look at, his chart. Even we'll show you how the chart actually lives on beyond your death and still produces certain kind of results. So we're going to look at, he was born August 29th, 1958. Now there are many different possible times of birth. Nobody could ever determine from his birth certificate what his time of birth was. But most people say it was late in the evening. So using several different dates of importance in his life, I rectified it to 22 hours and 52 minutes around 10:52 p.m. Born in Gary, Indiana. So we're going to use transformational Vedic astrology, and you can learn more about that. You can get a reading at www.vastucreations.com or learn to be certified in Transformation Vedic Astrology at AmericanInstituteofVastu.com. So let's just look and see how the planets are operating in his life, and then we'll look and see when the planets are operating, because not everything happens all at once. And then we'll look at and see what we could have done to remedy or rectify the chart to improve his karma. So Jyotish is putting light on your karma. It's a roadmap for your enlightenment, for your spiritual growth, for your success and happiness in life. So let's look and see what's happening in his chart. So if we were to look at the eastern horizon, the first house here, when he was born, you would see the constellation associated with Taurus rising at 6 degrees and 20 seconds, or minutes, excuse me. And that rising sign degree becomes the most effective point of every house. Any planet that's within 5 degrees of that has a lot of impact, like Mercury, like Jupiter. So in Transformation Vedic Astrology, we put a lot of emphasis on the Multrikona signs, which are 1, Aries, ruled by Mars, and 4th sign of Cancer, ruled by Moon, and the 5th sign of Leo in the 4th house here, ruled by Sun, 6th sign of Virgo, ruled by Mercury, 7th sign of Libra, ruled by Venus, 9th sign of Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, 11th sign of Aquarius, ruled by Saturn, and again, Aries, ruled by Mars. So if you look at the Multikona signs and what houses they're in, these are the houses that he is working on in his life, the focus of his life. He's working on spiritual growth through the letting go of attachments, hospitalization, imprisonment, feeling separate, alone, end-of-life experiences, sleep issues, addictions. He's working on the 3rd house issues, which are learning to express himself, to communicate, business success, entrepreneurial success, performing arts. He's working on happiness through family. He's working on children, creativity, education, and investments. He's working on health issues and conflicts, delay, disputes, accidents, fire, theft, and cheating. He's working on death-like experiences, transformations, inheritance, windfalls. He's working on obstacles, learning how to solve problems. And then he's working on his career, his dharma, and so those are the main focus in his life. So now let's look at and see how the planets are operating. We know that any Multikona sign that falls in the 6th, 8th, or the 12th house. These are the challenging houses. That planet becomes functional malefic. Doesn't mean it's always going to cause harm, but in the transit chart, whenever it's within 5 degrees of this rising sign degree, so anywhere from 11 to 1 degree, those planets that rule these 6th, 8th, and 12th houses are going to be afflicting different houses in the chart and planets if they're within 5 degrees. So Venus is functional malefic, Jupiter is functional malefic, and Mars is functional malefic, along with Rahu and Ketu that are functional malefic for every chart. So Taurus rising sign has 5 functional malefic planets. Now let's just go through the planets. Sun is his most powerful planet. It is very well placed, and it's very strong. It's in its own sign in this house of happiness through family. So, and it's aspecting the career house. So it's blessing. It's putting light, focus on his career, his dharma, through his family. And Sun is very powerful in his life. His father had a huge influence on him, very controlling. Now, Moon is at 23 degrees. It's ruling the house of performing arts, self-expression, entrepreneurial success. Is placed in the house of career. So his career was through performing for the public. Moon is public. Mars is at 28 degrees. It's functional malefic, as we said before. It's in its own house. It's weak in old age, and it is Mars gives great ambition and desire for enlightenment, for spiritual growth, and at the same time, a lot of letting go of attachments. And at certain parts in the transit chart, it can bring a lot of addiction. He always had sleep issues, so this is very activated. This house of sleep issues, feeling separate, feeling alone, feeling depressed, a lot of depression, all of that. So Mercury is at 3 degrees. So any planet that is more than 25 degrees or less than 5 degrees becomes in old age or adolescence. And very young and very old people cannot protect or promote their own signification. So they become weak. So Mercury is ruling the house of creativity. Huge amount of creativity in his life. It's placed in the house of family. So creativity through family. His family, up into a certain age, his whole family performed musically, performed together. So, and this is also the house of children. Bring a big desire for children in his life. Now, so this bringing Mercury in here can bring perfection to his creativity. He was very much a perfectionist about the performances, but it also can bring a lot of critical nature. So he was very critical of himself. He had a lot of operations to make himself look different, and very, very much critical. And Jupiter is also has to do with children, and it is in this house of obstacles, challenges, huge windfalls in his life. Jupiter is it's ruling this house of obstacles and research, and it's placed in this house of health and conflict. So, Jupiter also has to do with litigation. So conflict, litigation, and obstacles in terms of certain things in his life, in regard to children. A lot of obsession around children. I think, he grew up so fast. He didn't have a childhood, so he really desired to come back to that childlike experience and be with children in some unconventional sexual ways as well. So this is also a house of unconventional sex as well as addictions from this house. Um, Venus is at 23 degrees. We know that it's functional malefic, ruling this house of conflicts and health issues, placed in this house of performing arts. So it gave him a lot of iconic style, fashion. He was a fashion icon. Venus is fashion and beauty, and he had a very more feminine nature to him, very emotional and sensitive nature to his performance. Um, Venus itself is performing arts, but not without conflict, because this is that house of conflict and health issues, and delays, and all those things. And basically his relationships are had a lot of conflict. He was married twice, and a lot of conflict in relationships. Saturn is at 25 degrees. It's ruling the house of career. So Saturn made him very disciplined, hard worker. It's placed in the house of partnerships. So all performing artists, if they're successful, a lot of emphasis on relationships, with with your agent, with different people in the music industry, etc. So yeah, hard worker, very disciplined. A lot of that. And then Rahu in K2. So Rahu is a planetary node in the moon, not known in Western astrology, but whatever house it's placed in, it gives ambition, desire. Um, uh, so he had huge desire to be with children, to have children. A lot of ambition, to be creative, very creative person. And then K2 being in this house of income and friendship. So very much spiritual friendships with Deepak Chopra and Oprah Winfrey, and a lot of spiritual relationships, and also gave him desire to give to spiritual organizations as well. So that, and now let's look and see when the planets were operating. So he was badly burned during a performance in January 27th, 1984. It was during a Venus performing Venus period, which had to do with the performing arts. Venus was transiting the 8th house, which is accidents. So, and then August 17, 1993, he was charged with molestation. That's during let's see here, that was during a Jupiter. I think Jupiter was transiting the house of, it was had to do with conflicts and litigation involving children. Then January 26, 1994. So these are the Vimshatari Dasha period. So in a general sense, this is the main period and the sub period. These show general trends at different points in your life. So if we look at the transit chart and the planetary periods, we can really see the influence of the planets when major events happen in your life. So then January 26, 1994, he lost one of these cases of molestation and had to pay $10 million. That was during a K2 sub-period. K2, letting go of the attachments of income. He got married one time during May 26, 1994, during a Rahu period. Rahu was transiting the house of relationships. desire for marriage. And then April 3rd, 1998, he had a daughter during a Mercury period. Mercury ruling the house of children was activated. And then he was indicted May 21st, 2004 for molestation again. And that was during a Rahu period. Rahu was in the 12th house of imprisonment. He actually didn't go to prison, I don't think. I can't remember. No, I don't think so. But this is the house of issues like that. And I think Rahu was afflicting Jupiter, which is the legal issues. Then he died in May 25th, 2009. So if we look at the Dasha period, excuse me, 2009, that was during a Mars period. So Mars, this is end of life experience. And Rahu and Ketu were afflicting the first house of longevity at that time. So let's just look at that transit chart. And we see this is, if we go back 10 years to June 25th. Yeah, June 25th. Okay. So we see Rahu is transiting at 6 degrees, which is right on the most effective point. That means Rahu and Ketu are afflicting 6 out of your 12 houses. So it's afflicting the first house of health and longevity. So, and then you see Venus and Mars afflicting each other in the house of end of life. So huge emphasis on end of life there and longevity. And then if we look at the date today or the present time period, if we go up 10 years, we see that around January, I think the documentary came out somewhere around there. And we see that during this, there's a period of new allegations that were hidden. And we see that we're in a Mars period. So Mars is, again, this is the house of secrets being revealed and addictions being revealed, etc. So we see that the chart actually lives on. So those are the main points for the Michael Jackson's chart. If you would like a reading, you can go to www.vastucreations.com, or you can learn Transformational Vedic Astrology at AmericanInstituteofVastu.com. Thank you so much for listening. I'm very excited to present Michael Jackson, which I'm a big fan. Although he had some issues, we all have issues, but anyway. So thank you again for listening.